Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Week number 16, National Football League. This is a big matchup in the AFC Conference. Kansas City Chiefs, Kansas City, hosting the Indianapolis Colts. 9-5 Colts taking on the 11-3 Kansas City Chiefs. So, this is a game with a lot riding on it for a number of reasons. This is an important game. One, the Chiefs still have an outside shot of winning the AFC West. But in order to do that, they have to win. So that's number one. Number two, the Indianapolis Colts, even though they've already clinched a playoff berth by virtue of winning their division, so they've already won their division, clinched a playoff berth, but they're looking at seeding. So a win here, a win there, a couple of losses by some other teams. This team could go from the 4 seed to the 3 seed, potentially to the 2 seed if things fall in their favor. So, again, just winning is the key. You got to win. So, from that standpoint, both of these teams have a lot to play for. And the third reason is these two teams could see each other conceivably in the first round of the postseason. Colts could be your 4 seed, Chiefs could be your 5 seed, and this could be a first round matchup. So if you're one of these two teams, you want to be able to look that other team squarely in the eyes and say, hey, I already beat you. I have confidence that I can get it done against you. Bring it on. So you want to have the upper hand and have a little bit of momentum going into that potential first round wild card weekend matchup if you're one of these two teams, if that matchup were to occur. So big game here. And if you're Kansas City, more so than Indy, you need to win this game because you've got a lot riding on this game. So what if the Indianapolis Colts end up the 4 seed? Hell, they're already the 4 seed anyway. But for you, it's the difference between being potentially the 1 or the 2 seed or the 5 seed. This is huge. And if you got to play this team, you want to at least be able to say, hey, okay, fine, I'm the 5 seed. I got to go on the road. But I already beat you. I know I can beat you. So you're at home. You need to take advantage of this opportunity if you're Kansas City. Let's get to the board and break this game down from the lens and eyes of me, Louie T. So 9-5 Indianapolis Colts, 11-3 Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, great Dexter McCluster return coupled with Jamal Charles dominating on the ground, including a 24-yard touchdown run, starts off the scoring in this game. Chiefs take a 7-0 lead. Now, is there a better special teams unit in the league than the Kansas City Chiefs? Is there? Name me one. I know the Minnesota Vikings aren't that far behind with Cordell Patterson and Marcus Sherrills on punt returns, but the Chiefs have a bevy of guys that they can put back there. I mean, Dexter McCluster missed the last 2 weeks of the season, and all they do is insert a guy like Depps back on kickoffs, and they still got Nile Davis back there, and both of those guys have scored touchdowns. We know McCluster has been electrifying on punts all season long. They just got a bevy of guys that can give it to you on special teams. They don't lose anything when they stick somebody else back there. They're just a dangerous group, and Dexter McCluster, to me, he's a free agent. They got to resign this guy because he changes the game on special teams. Somebody's going to pay him a lot of money to be their special teams ace in terms of punt returns next year. Hopefully the Chiefs are the team that are able to keep him in-house because he's a huge difference maker. He gets the scoring off, or at least has a return that gives them great field position, and Jamal Charles does the rest. He was dominant on that first possession, but really not a lot else from him in this game. Credit must be given to this Colts defense. Speaking of which, Brandon Flowers drops an interception at the goal line after a long Colts drive, but Vinatieri misses a field goal, so it's still 7-0 Kansas City in this game. A field goal by Vinatieri goes through this time as the Colts move the ball down the field, but again, have to settle for a field goal. And I thought I'd make mention of that because early in this game, the Colts were moving the football on this Chiefs defense, but they couldn't get in the end zone. And at the time, it seemed like if they lose this game 20-17, if they lose this game 20-14, if they lose this game 16-20, this will be the reason why. You get down here, long drive, nothing to show for it because you missed a field goal. You get down here, long drive, got to settle for another field goal. And so I was thinking that with the way the Chiefs play defense, the way the Colts have been struggling offensively, this was going to be a tight-knit game down the stretch. Maybe these drives that ended in field goal attempts instead of touchdowns might prove to be the difference. But as we'll find out, Donald Brown was having none of it. And it's funny. Before we even get to Donald Brown, it was funny. I was talking to a Colts fan, one that I always talk to. He frequents my channel, and he's been a supporter for me for a long time. And my man JL, huge Colts fan, was like, look, man, I never thought I'd see the day where Donald Brown was a huge contributor on this football team, a guy that we have to rely on, because I said on the last video that the Colts have to have Donald Brown show up each and every week. They don't have anything else out of the backfield that they can rely on. They have to have contributions from Donald Brown. And he talked about missing, Ahmad Bradshaw, who I feel like is the key. If they had Ahmad Bradshaw, this is a totally different team. The last time we saw this Colts team look like the bully that they want to become was when Ahmad Bradshaw played against San Francisco and they dominated on the road. Didn't this game remind you of that, though? Didn't this game remind you of that team that went out to the Bay Area, smacked the 49ers around in their own house, disrespected them, went to the fridge, got a glass of milk, went to the pantry, got a couple of cookies, and went down, took the remote, put their feet up on the coffee table? Doesn't this remind you of that Colts team that went in and absolutely disrespected the 49ers in their own house? Didn't this remind you of that? It really did to me. All right. 33-yard Donald Brown screen scores a touchdown, and Colts take a 10-7 lead. D. Brown is getting it done. And again, much like JL, I never thought I'd see the day where I would be saying Donald Brown is the key. But D. Brown is the key right now. Seriously. You look at this game. D. Brown, 33-yard screen to the house. Touchdown. Colts take the lead. Okay? Another Colts field goal. It's 13-7 right now. And I'm going to stop here for a second. Chiefs D struggling after another long completion, and T.Y. Hilton helps them get that field goal to make it a 13-7 Colts lead. I have to stop here. Because, ooh, you in trouble. I'm talking to you, Kansas City. Ooh, you in trouble. I'm telling on you. I feel like I'm a 4-year-old kid in preschool right now, and you just said a bad word. I'm telling on you, Kansas City. I'm telling on you. It's time to tell on you. I'm tired of telling right now. Your defense isn't what it used to be. You know why? Because you don't have Justin Houston. I don't know when he's coming back. I don't know if he'll be back in time for the postseason. If you're just resting him, you want him 100%. I don't know what the situation with him is. It looked gruesome when he hurt himself, and I thought Tamba Hali's injury might have been a little bit worse. Turns out that Justin Houston's injury has been the one that's been a lot worse, and you need that guy back in the worst way because you're not getting the same amount of pressure. Your defense isn't as fearsome. You're not forcing the issue. You're not getting timely turnovers anymore. This Colts offense did what they wanted to do to you in this game. We've seen teams score on you in the last month or so without Justin Houston. And look, I know you still have Tamba Hali, but 2 is always better than 1. Always. There's never a case where 2 isn't better than 1 when talking about playmakers on your football team. And when you're especially talking about pass rushers, it's hard to stop 2. When you got a tag team, back again. When you got 2, when you got a tag team, and they tagging in and out, one's getting to the quarterback, the other is applying pressure, then the other one's tagging in, and he's getting pressure. When you got 2, man, it's hard. It's hard to defend against that. It's hard to stop the Rams when they got the medicine man, the mighty, mighty Quinn over there getting pressure, and then Mr. Long is on the other side. It's tough. It's tough when you got to go up against Carolina, and they got Greg Hardy on one side, and they got Charles Johnson on the other. It's tough. It's tough when the Broncos used to have Von Miller on one side and Elvis Dumerville on the other. That's tough. It's rough when you got to go up against a team, and they got 2. And it was tough early on offenses, playing the Kansas City Chiefs, to have to try to stop Tamba Hali on one side and then look on the other side and say, whew, we got Tamba under control. You still got to deal with Justin Houston. It's tough because you can't chip everybody. You can't double team everybody. Can't do it. So it's rough. But you take one of those guys out of the equation, it's not as bad anymore. I I can chip Tamba Hali. I can double him and feel like I can win all the rest of those matchups one-on-one. No problem with that. I don't have to worry about anybody else. I don't have to answer to Frank Zombo. What do I care? So, this defense, ooh, you're in trouble. And guess what? This has been the problem all year long, but you've been able to avoid it. You don't score a lot of points. That's no secret. I'm still telling on you, but it's no secret. You don't score a lot of points. So add to the fact that now defensively, you're not scaring teams. You're not holding them under 20 points like you were earlier in the season. You don't have a fearsome pass rush like you did earlier in the season. You're not tackling. This was a poor tackling game. You're not tackling as well. I remember the first time I laid eyes on you guys this season, I said, wow, that's a sharp tackling football team. And I saw that for the first 8 games of the season where I'm looking at this team. I'm like, wow, when they get a guy in space, they make the tackle. If it's 3rd and 7 and they catch a 4-yard pass, they're getting 4 yards on that play. That's how good this team was at tackling earlier on in the season. That's not the case anymore. And the Colts really took advantage of some poor tackling in this football game. You guys need some tackling fuel. But I said all that to say this. If Justin Houston comes back and he's healthy and he's wreaking havoc, all is forgiven. You can go back to being a dominant defense again. But if he's not, and I don't know his status, but if he's not, and you continue to be lackluster on defense, guess what? You don't score a lot of points offensively. Hey, there's a disconnect here. Somebody help me. What are you going to do? I don't know. But guess what? Playoffs are right around the corner. They're knocking on the door. And you got to let them in. And if you're going to play like this, and look, you just lost the division, so now you're going to be the 5 seed, you got to go on the road. If you're playing like this on the road against a team, potentially in the Indianapolis Colts, you're going home in opening week of the playoffs with 11, possibly 12 wins on your resume. That sucks, but that's the nature of the beast. You need to fix some things, whether it be offensively, you get explosive, and I don't know how you managed to do that. You were scoring points, but that was against the likes of the Redskins and the Raiders. Colts aren't those guys. So, and guess what? Nobody in the postseason is going to be the Redskins or the Raiders. So, you need to figure out some answers, and fast, because you could lose again to San Diego, go into the playoffs with no momentum whatsoever, and get mollywopped in Wild Card Weekend. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So, Chiefs get a break on a Hemingway fumble. Look, Junior Hemingway fumbled on this play. Okay? He took 3 steps. He put the football away, which is a football move, a football action, and then he was stripped. That's a fumble. Chiefs got away with it, but doesn't matter anyway. Football gods resurrect the situation, and the Chiefs miss a field goal right before the half. No harm, no foul. 13-7 at the half, Indy leading. At this point, I still felt like the Chiefs were going to find a way to win this game. They were going to get a hand on an Andrew Luck pass, tip it in the air, pick him off, get to him, strip him. There was going to be some kind of defensive defining play in this game that tilted the balance in the favor of the Chiefs. That's what I thought. They were just still in this game. That was until 51-yard Donald Brown touchdown scamper with a lot of bad tackling attached. Look, I told you D. Brown was huge in this game. And D. Brown is going to continue to be huge down the stretch for these Colts. And again, much like my man JL, I never thought I'd be saying that about Donald Brown. But D. Brown is a necessity right now in Indy. He was huge in this game. And if he continues to play like this, I've already said this. And last week, I got confirmation on how I was believing. And this week, I got further confirmation in how I was starting to feel about this Colts offense. With Derrick Rodgers in there, he gives you an element of a big possession receiver with a little bit of speed that can change the game, which takes pressure off of T.Y. Hilton, which allows him to do what it is he does at that number 2 spot. Kobe Fleener can still help you at the tight end position now. Everybody falls back in the slots with Derrick Rodgers in there. If Donald Brown gives you something from the running back position, this is a dangerous Indianapolis Colts football team. And you saw it in this game, and I felt like they were dominant in this game. I felt like how I felt about them earlier in the year when they went to San Francisco. And even in the loss at San Diego where they played some tremendous defense. They lost the game 16-9 or something like that, but they were in that football game defensively. They were fast. They were flying around to the football. They did that in this game. Very impressive by the Indianapolis Colts. Another Vinatieri field goal makes it 23-7. And this is where I thought, okay, if the Chiefs are going to make a move in this game, they got to do it now. And they went all the way down the field, they got in the scoring range, and then this happened. A pick by Jarrell Freeman at the goal line as Alex Smith is hit by Robert Mathis. And this is one of the freakiest plays you'll see. Okay, Mathis, and he should be given a sack for this, but he probably won't because it ended up being an interception. But he should be given a sack on this play. I hope that the NFL record, takers or whoever, go back, comb over this game, and they see that Robert Mathis was the reason for this pick. They should call it a fumble, and they should give him a sack, and a forced fumble should be credited to Robert Mathis because Alex Smith, and again, to the naked eye, you don't see this. I only saw this because of replay. They go back and show it. Robert Mathis gets around the corner, hits Alex Smith's arm as he's going forward. The ball actually comes out of his hand, stops on his wrist, and Alex Smith, who was already going through his throwing motion, continues forward with his motion, but the ball is down here on his wrist because Robert Mathis has already knocked it out. And he goes forward and pushes it, and that's why the ball came out all funky at the goal line, and it was picked off by Jarrell Freeman. And so Mathis continues to be a force on that defensive line. And that was the dagger in this game as the Indianapolis Colts go into Kansas City and thoroughly dominate. I mean, absolutely go in and embarrass Kansas City. I mean, this was one that I did not see coming. Didn't see it coming. The way the Colts have been playing, the way the Chiefs have been playing, this didn't match up. This wasn't the two teams I saw coming into this game. This didn't match up. Now, again, I thought the Colts had been playing better of late because they had that little stretch of football where they were falling behind every game. And offensively, they were trying to find their way since the Reggie Wayne injury. They were struggling. But I said since Rick Rodgers has been getting more run and been in the game a little bit more, I felt like the offense was starting to move the ball a little bit better. And you're seeing that now, but I was more impressed with the defense in this game. Yeah, I know the Chiefs don't score a lot of points. They're not world beaters offensively, but to come out and dominate the way you did, force the turnovers that you did, and really get after Alex Smith, stop the run game. Again, after Jamal Charles had that opening drive, there was no more Jamal Charles. Okay, to shut those guys down and to really have an impact on the game the way that you did defensively, I was impressed. And again, you're going to see this team potentially in 2 weeks in Wild Card Weekend, and to beat them in their place, it gives you all the confidence in the world that, hey, come playoff time, if I got to see these guys again at home, oh, you know they're not beating us then. If they couldn't beat us at their house, this game reminded me of two games. The game earlier in San Francisco, I already mentioned that. And remember last year, if you're a Colts fan, I know you remember this. When you clinched last year to get into the postseason, who'd you beat? Where did it happen? In Kansas City. Hard-fought game. It wasn't the prettiest, but you were able to go into Kansas City, get a win against a bad Chiefs football team. This looked a lot like that. Tough, gritty game. You go in, you get it done. But this one was a lot more dominant, and this one was a lot more impressive than the one last year because you were supposed to win that game last year. You were the better team. The Chiefs were downtrodden. They had some things that they had going on in their organization that they had to iron out. You were supposed to win that game. This one, you weren't supposed to win this game. You weren't supposed to go in and dominate, and you did. And so that, to me, is impressive. Look out for these Indianapolis Colts as they're playing better football at the right time of the season. As they go into Kansas City, smack up the Kansas City Chiefs with a two-piece, 23-7. If you're the Chiefs, you got a lot of things to fix and not a lot of time in which to do so. Look, postseason, knocking on the door. You got one regular season game, and then you're into the postseason, and your offense is going in the wrong direction. Your defense isn't playing as good as it once was. And again, a lot of that has to do with the injury to Justin Houston. He needs to hurry back. But again, you got dominated, and that is disappointing. Even though that's probably going to be your last home game of the season anyway, You got dominated at home. That can't feel good. That doesn't spell good things for the Chiefs moving forward. And you got a tough Chargers team that has playoff aspirations still coming, or you going to their place. Rough. That's going to be rough. If you go into the postseason on a 2-game skid, ouch. Somebody could be in some trouble. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Colts, big win on the road. Go to 10-5. They still could move up that ladder in the AFC. We'll see. But big win. If you're the Colts, and even if you remain the 4 seed, you got to feel good about your chances of beating these guys now that you went to their house and smacked them around. So, big win. Colts go to 10-5. Chiefs drop to 11-4. And with this loss, they also drop the AFC West division to the Denver Broncos. That's no longer on the table. You're now locked into the 5 seed are the Kansas City Chiefs. So, I don't know what Week 17 means for you now because there's really not much to play for. I don't know if you elect to rest guys. Offensively, other than Jamal Charles, I don't think you can afford to rest anyone. I think you need to get some continuity offensively and try to score some points against San Diego on the road to build some confidence going into the postseason. But if you want to sit Jamal Charles, absolutely. Because he's too valuable to your football team to have him get an ankle injury or for him to get nicked up in Week 17 in a meaningless game for you. So if you want to rest him, by all means. Anybody else, they need to be out there, and you need to be building some kind of continuity offensively and seeing if you can put some points up on the scoreboard to build some confidence going into the postseason. If you're the Colts, huge win. You're probably going to win in Week 17 at home. It doesn't matter. I forget who it is, but you've got somebody within the division, somebody that you can beat. You've already played Tennessee twice. You've already played Jacksonville, so it's got to be Tennessee. Or excuse me, it's got to be Houston at home. I just see you beating Houston and finishing up your season at 11-5, much like you did last season. And who knows what that could be 3, that could be 2 seed. I think the 2 seed is out of the window now that the Patriots have won and Cincinnati has won, and I expect Cincinnati to win again in Week 17 versus Baltimore. So I think you're going to be the 4 seed, like I had said all along. But either way, big win on the road, man. That was so impressive. It really was. Like the direction you're going in, come playoff time, you got to feel confident that no matter where you are, 4 seed, 3 seed, you got to feel good about your chances of getting out of wild card weekend with the W and potentially doing some damage down the road in the 2013 NFL playoffs. So, big win for the Colts, bad loss for the Chiefs. That's going to do it for this installment of In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. It happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. I've got plenty more games, so come and join me as I continue to break down week number 16, the National Football League.